Can Zakat al-Fitr be given in cash? No, Zakat al-Fitr can be given in cash. Given in cash renders it an ordinary charity, not Zakat al-Fitr, because you didn't follow the proper rules for this ibadah. It must be given in food, the way the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam specified it. If you've given it in cash this year, you still have some time to amend the mistake by giving it properly. Because the proper timing for Zakat al-Fitr is 1 or 2 days before the end of Ramadan, and the best timing for it is after sunset on the last day of Ramadan, all the way until right before Salat al-Eid. Given Zakat al-Fitr after Salat al-Eid is another mistake that renders this an ordinary charity and not Zakat al-Fitr. Keep in mind though, if you give cash to a trustworthy relative or trustworthy person or a trustworthy organization, and you delegate to them the task of buying food for poor people on your behalf, that's permissible. That's not considered giving it in cash, because the poor person is receiving food, not the money. You're just delegating the task to someone else to do it on your behalf, and that's permissible. In matters like this, you tend to always hear the argument that some sheikh allowed it. Some sheikh said it's permissible. And that's very similar to what I mentioned pertaining to the earlier question about whether a wali is required for nikah or not. Sincere ulama who do the best in their ijtihad with what they have of proof, and they cite the truth in that, they're rewarded inshallah. But you're not rewarded for following what they cited the truth in if you know that they're wrong in it. Using that argument that some ulama said it's okay on this specific matter is over 1,000 years old. And that argument can be dismantled by a statement from Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala on this specific matter. And it can be used for other similar fiqh masail. Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala said you can't give cash for Zakat al-Fitr. Someone told him, but Umar ibn Abdul Aziz allowed it. Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala said they leave the saying of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam and they say so and so said it's permissible. Then he mentioned Hadith Ibn Umar on this matter, the hadith that's in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam prescribed Zakat al-Fitr as 1 sa' of dates and 1 sa' of barley. فرض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم زكاة الفطر صاعا من تمر أو صاعا من شعير. And then Imam Ahmad recited وأطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول. Obey Allah and obey the Messenger. That's absolutely all that needs to be said on this matter. That statement by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala is all that needs to be said on this matter. We should stop right here. Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala said it's by ijma' that if the sunnah becomes apparent and clear to someone, they can't leave it to the saying of anyone else. Given Zakat al-Fitr in food is what the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam clearly ordered. فرض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم زكاة الفطر صاعا من تمر أو صاعا من شعير. What's the meaning of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam specifying a sa' of dates and a sa' of barley if that's not what's intended? The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam clarified what's obligatory. Zakat al-Fitr is obligatory. Then he specified what's obligatory. Specification indicates you must adhere to what he specified. Otherwise, mentioning those items would have no purpose and no meaning. And if cash was allowed, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have added at the end, or you can give their value in cash. It was the understanding of the best generation, the first generation, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, who had the purest, best understanding of this deen. It was their understanding to give zakat al-fitr and food. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma gave a speech saying, Sadaqatul fitr is a sa' of food. We don't know no one who stood up and said, no, Ibn Abbas, you're wrong. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, we used to give a sa' of food. كنا نخرج زكاة الفطر صاعا من طعام أو صاعا من شعير أو صاعا من تمر أو صاعا من أقط أو صاعا من زبيب. We used to give zakat al-fitr 1 sa' of food, or 1 sa' of sha'ir, which is barley, or 1 sa' of tamr, which is dates, or 1 sa' of aqat, cottage cheese, or a sa' of zabib, which is dried grapes. That's what they gave for zakat al-fitr. One needs to understand the basic principle rule about ibadat in order to understand this specific issue. Zakat al-fitr is classified as a ibadah. It's a worship. Acts of worship are tawqifiyya. Al-ibadat tawqifiyya. That means they can only come to us from the Shari'i text, the Quran and Sunnah, and they must be performed according to how they were prescribed upon us. Because Islam is complete. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم. There's nothing that draws one closer to Jannah and distances one from Jahannam except that it's been explained to us. The one who legislated this mighty, great act of worship is the all-wise, the all-aware. He's the all-knowing of the conditions of his servants in what's best for them. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. The proofs show that the Messenger ﷺ explained to us that zakat al-fitr should be given in food. Make an ijtihad in a matter like this, making the ijtihad to replace the food with cash, is making ijtihad in a matter that has clear proof on it. And that's opposing the proof. And the Messenger ﷺ told us, مَنْ عَمِلَ عَمَلًا لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ أَمْرُنَا فَهُوَ رَدٌّ. Whoever does an act that we haven't commanded, it's rejected. And the circumstances during the Messenger ﷺ's time are similar to our circumstances in this matter. They had poor people, and we have poor people. They had cash, we have cash. There was poor people during the Messenger ﷺ's time who needed to feed themselves and their animals, and they needed shelter and housing, and they needed dowry to get married. They also had gold and silver coins as currency back then. Follow along with me to get the point that I'm trying to make. They had poor people with needs like we have today. They had currency, we have currency. And the Messenger ﷺ is described as in huwa illa wahyun yuha. He's revelation that's revealed. And he was given the specialty of jawami al-kalim. He would give short expressions that carry the widest meanings. He could have said, one should give a sa' of dates or a sa' of barley for zakat al-fitr, or their equivalent in gold or silver. But we don't have a single authentic marfu' narration by the Messenger ﷺ where he allowed anything other than food. In fact, it would have been permissible to give cash if the Messenger ﷺ permitted that once only. Or if he saw someone giving zakat al-fitr in gold and silver once and didn't object. Or if he knew of it being given in gold and silver and didn't say anything. or, of course, if he approved it. But none of that ever happened. So let me summarize that point. When the poor people back then had the needs that poor people today have, they had currency back then that we have, yet the Messenger ﷺ didn't mention cash as an option. We practice the ibadah exactly as the Messenger ﷺ taught us. Some say the poor need money. Instead of food, they need money. So we should give it to them as money. What you need to understand is Islam is an entire system. It left nothing out. They allege, in argument for giving cash, they say the poor person doesn't need food today. He needs help with his rent, clothes. He needs help rebuilding his house. So we'll give him cash. That's great. Give him cash. But that comes from another budget. The budget of Zakat al-Mal. Not Zakat al-Fitr. Pull that out of your 2.5 Zakat al-Mal and give it to that poor person for rent and marriage and shelter and so on. Or pull it from the general sadaqah that's recommended in the Quran and the Sunnah. Give it to him from there, not from the Zakat al-Fitr. If you work for a company, you know they have budgets. They have budgets and they have accounts for various types of expenditures. They have budgets for wages, for rent, for equipment, for marketing and advertising, for maintenance and supplies. If an accountant or employee uses an account dedicated for wages to pay for maintenance that has its own account and budget, he's going to have issues with his boss. Eventually, it's going to be a financially disorganized company and it may go bankrupt. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the most supreme examples. He gave us the infallible guidance to live by. And we must apply it according to how He ordered us. Zakat al-Fitr is for the purpose that the Messenger ﷺ specified it for. وَطُعْمَةً لِلْمَسَاكِينَ. Food for the poor. That in of itself is proof that it must be food. طُعْمَةً وَطُعْمَةً لِلْمَسَاكِينَ. The wisdom behind it is food for the poor. Zakat al-Fitr is consoling the poor person on the Eid to relieve them from the humiliation of asking for food on the day of Eid or the 3 days after that. So he can spend his joyous day and days after that with food for himself and his family without having to ask others for it. Zakat al-Mal is a different resource that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established for other needs that are detailed in Surah At-Tawbah in verse 60. You can use that budget for the other purposes. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. You also have another option. صدقة التطوع, that greatly encourage charities that are recommended in the Quran and Sunnah. You can use that to give the poor person. The needs of the poor are diverse. So Allam al-Ghuyub ordered various types of zakah to make sure the poor people get what satisfies all their various needs. If you say, but they need clothes instead of food, they need to rebuild their houses, no doubt about that. Get that from the right budget. Also, something to keep in mind is Zakat al-Fitr is a symbol of Ramadan. It's a sha'ira of this deen. When I was younger in Medina, in the last few days before Ramadan was over, they would set up temporary stands all over the city to sell Muslims a sa' of the food that they're supposed to give zakat in. And it was a beautiful sight to see. People buying that sa' of food, and then you would see them driving and walking in neighborhoods, passing it out. I'm not sure if it's still like that or not, but it was such a beautiful symbol to see. When you give that zakat in cash, that buries that beautiful seasonal Ramadanic symbol. And our final thought on this matter is that all the ulama of Ahl Sunnah, from the beginning to the end, agree that if you give this zakah in food, it's accepted. There's no dispute on that. The ulama dispute whether it can be given in cash, as I've explained. And I explained what's correct. Why would you leave what has no doubt to that which has doubt? The Messenger ﷺ said, leave what's doubtful to that which is not doubtful. And you flip it around by giving the zakat al-fitr in cash.